Okay, so today we're going deep on a pretty huge question.
Yeah.
Well, one that humans have been asking, like, forever.
Absolutely.
What happens after we die?
Right.
Big one.
Yeah. And to help us kind of unpack this whole mystery we're turning to,
Mm-hmm.
the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
It's really a classic for a reason, right?
Oh, yeah. It's not just some, like, spooky ghost story.
No.
It gets into some really deep stuff about consciousness, like what it even is. Karma and these wild in-between states they call bardos.
Yeah, it's not your typical afterlife scenario.
Not at all.
Like, think of it as a guidebook for the soul after you kick the bucket.
Okay, I like that. A guidebook for the soul. So
Oh.
for anyone listening who's ever laid awake at night wondering, like, what's on the other side?
Yeah.
This is for you.
We're going to break down the different stages that this book lays out.
Okay.
From that first moment after you die
Right.
to the possibility of being reborn.
So like the whole soul's journey.
Right, the whole trip.
So these bardos are key, right? Absolutely. They're like the different realms or levels of reality that your consciousness passes through after death.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning.
Love it.
Death itself. Like, in this view, it's not the end, is it?
No, not at all. It's more like a transition to the first bardo.
Okay.
It's called the Chikai Bardo.
Chikai Bardo.
And get this right, when you die,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to encounter this incredibly bright light.
Okay, so I've heard about this, like, the light at the end of the tunnel thing.
Yeah, but this is different. It's called the clear light.
Clear light. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is it exactly?
Well, it's not just a visual thing like a light bulb. It's more like pure awareness.
Pure awareness.
Yeah, your essence stripped of all the stuff that makes you, you.
Like your personality and your memories.
Yeah, exactly. All the baggage.
So this light is like the ultimate reality.
Right. The core of everything.
And the Book of the Dead makes a big deal about recognizing this light.
Right. Oh, huge emphasis.
Why is that?
Because they say if you can recognize it in that moment of death, bam, you're liberated.
Like you escape the whole cycle of death and rebirth.
Exactly. No more coming back to this crazy world.
Wow, that's intense. So it's not just seeing the light, it's like knowing what it is.
Right. You have to understand it on a deep level, not just be like, oh, pretty lights.
Yeah, like a deep inner knowing.
Exactly.
But let's be real, most of us are probably going to be a little freaked out when we die.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we're probably pretty attached to our lives.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So what happens if we don't recognize this clear light?
Well, then you move on to the next bardo,
Okay.
the Chonid bardo.
Chonid.
And this is where things get
Ooh,
weird.
weird how?
Well, basically, your mind starts conjuring up all sorts of crazy visions.
Like what kind of visions?
Everything from peaceful Buddhas chilling out
Okay.
to like terrifying, wrathful deities with skulls and weapons and stuff.
Whoa. Okay, so we go from like spa day to horror movie.
Pretty much.
So are these like real beings or?
Well, that's the thing. The Tibetan Book of the Dead says they're actually projections of your own mind.
Really? So it's all coming from inside?
Exactly. And they're shaped by your karma.
Ah. Okay, so like all the actions and thoughts from your life.
Right. It's all coming back to you in this wild, symbolic way.
That's pretty trippy.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot to process.
So you're telling me all these crazy deities are just like me?
Well, they're reflections of you, your deepest fears, your hidden desires, your attachments.
So basically it's like looking in a cosmic mirror,
Kind of, yeah.
but like a really intense funhouse mirror.
Yeah, something like that.
So what are you supposed to do when you're faced with all these visions?
The key is to stay calm. Don't freak out.
Easier said than done, right?
No, yeah. But if you can remember that these visions are just projections,
Mm-hmm.
you can avoid getting trapped in the cycle of suffering.
So basically, don't believe the hype.
Exactly. See through the illusions.
Okay, so let's say you make it through that Bardo without losing your cool.
Right. Then you enter the final bardo.
The final one.
It's called the Sidpa bardo.
That's Bardo.
And this one is all about rebirth.
Okay, so like finding a new body.
Yeah, your consciousness is basically searching for a new home.
Wow. So what determines where you end up?
You guessed it, karma.
Karma always comes back around.
It's the law.
So you could be reborn as anything.
Yeah, depending on your karma, you could come back as a human,
Okay.
or an animal, or even some kind of supernatural being.
Like a ghost.
Exactly, or a god even.
Whoa, so it's like a cosmic lottery.
Kind of, but with your karma as the winning ticket.
Or the losing ticket, I guess.
Right.
And how long does this whole Bardo process take?
According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it can last up to 49 days.
49 days, that's specific. Is there a reason for that number?
Well, some people think it's like a symbolic period of transition.
Okay.
Like it takes that long for your karma to fully work itself out.
So you're just kind of floating around in this Bardo for 49 days.
Not exactly. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes all sorts of weird lights and sounds and urges that you experience during this time.
What do you mean by urges?
Like strong desires and attachments that pull you towards certain realms of existence.
So like if you're really attached to material things in life.
You might feel a strong pull towards being reborn in a realm where those things are abundant.
But that might not be a good thing, right?
Right, because it could trap you in the cycle of desire and suffering.
Okay, so how are you supposed to avoid those traps?
This is where the practice of reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead comes in.
Ah, okay, so this is why people read it to the dying.
Exactly. It's meant to guide the deceased through the bardos.
Like a spiritual roadmap.
Exactly. It reminds them of the teachings and helps them to recognize the opportunities for liberation.
So even if you missed the clear light at the beginning, you still have a chance.
Absolutely. It's never too late.
So let's recap.
Sure.
Right after death, you encounter the clear light in the Chikai Bardo.
Right. The first big crossroads.
And if you don't recognize it,
You move on to the Chonid Bardo with all those crazy visions.
you're just projections of your own mind.
Exactly, illusion.
And then if you're still bound for rebirth,
You enter the Sidpa Bardo, where karma guides you to your next life.
and the whole thing could take up to 49 days.
Right.
Okay, so the big question is, can you actually escape this whole death and rebirth cycle?
The Tibetan Book of the Dead says yes, liberation is possible.
Wow.
Well, you already mentioned the clear light.
Right.
But you can also achieve liberation in the later bardos by recognizing that all the visions are just illusions.
So it's all about waking up to reality.
Exactly, seeing through the game.
But that sounds really hard.
Oh, it's definitely not easy.
Like all our habits and fears and stuff.
They create a lot of momentum towards rebirth.
Right, like a strong gravitational pull.
Exactly.
So it takes a lot of work to break free.
It does. It takes a lot of practice and dedication.
So even though this is a book about death, it seems like it has a lot to say about how we live our lives now.
Absolutely. It's not just some morbid fascination with the afterlife.
Right, it's about understanding the nature of your mind.
And the power of your actions.
So it's really relevant for anyone who's interested in personal growth or spirituality, or even just like living a more meaningful life.
Totally. It challenges you to look at your life from a completely different perspective.
Like knowing that death isn't the end.
Right. It makes you think about what really matters.
And how you want to live your life.
Exactly.
So even if all the details about the Bardos don't resonate with you.
There's still a lot of wisdom to be gained from the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Yeah, it's a mind-blowing exploration of consciousness and reality.
Absolutely.
Okay, so just to wrap things up, the Tibetan Book of the Dead lays out this whole journey after death with the clear light, the mind-created visions,
Right.
and the potential for rebirth over 49 days.
And through it all, the possibility of liberation.
Wow, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
So for everyone listening, here's a question to ponder.
Okay.
How might understanding these potential post-death experiences change the way you live your life now?
Like, would you make different choices?
Yeah, would you prioritize different things?
It's interesting to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it really blurs the lines between life and death.
Totally. It makes you realize they're not as separate as we tend to think.
And that's some deep stuff.
It is.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
I agree.
I hope it's given you some food for thought.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.